There's a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Grimm.
Hello, my name's Phil. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to learn to not talk over you.
That's a lot of talk over me. Do what you need to do, my friend.
Well, that's unprofessional.
I don't know what's professional. This is not a professional thing, but
Yeah, no, I suppose you get a point there.
yeah. Just to try things out, I suppose we could say this. This is a podcast. We are two dads. I don't know if we want to
That
lean
we
into
are.
that part. That we are. You a dad of a 13-year-old, and
As of tomorrow.
As of tomorrow, and 11.
No, about to be 10.
About to be 10, and me, a dad of I guess almost 9 weeks. So, anyways, I started reading Grimm's to the boy, because the boy does not know what the fuck I'm saying.
This is when you get to read anything you want to them.
No, Amanda reads the New Yorker, and at bedtime I've been reading Grimm's, and Grimm's I've noticed is bonkers, and so we thought it would be funny to talk about the bonkers shit. And we're to explain. We've been friends. Yes, we met at UMass Amherst 20 some years ago, and here we are.
Yeah.
Story one. Oh shit! No, what is it? The Frog King.
By the way, I want to interject. I ordered this from my local bookstore and picked it up. It's a gorgeous edition. It's got these scary trees. It's a leather-bound cover, gold leaf pages, and the guy who runs the bookstore, when he went to grab the order, he froze. He was like, "Oh, this is gorgeous." And I was like, "Yeah, it's not bad." He's like, "Do you mind if I look at it? My hands are clean." And I was like, "Nope, don't mind. It's a book." I mean, he works in a bookstore, so he runs a bookstore. So yeah, I mean, books are his thing. But I've never seen somebody fawn over a book of mine like that. Very exciting.
Well, it's a very nice book. I agree.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous.
So okay, we have the Frog King.
Yep, or Iron Henry.
Or Iron Henry, and we can get into that.
That comes up at the end.
It does. The story, and I have this in my note. The story does take just a hard right turn.
Yeah,
and not even like oh, and now something. It's just a slightly different story, and there's nothing. But so I thought, just as an idea, we could go through the plot.
Yep. Interject
if you have any notes.
Certainly.
And then we can maybe talk about the moral. That's something that these stories.
I'm not sure what the moral is supposed to be here.
I think I have two ideas. Neither of them are good.
Perfect. I'm full of bad ideas as well. So
yeah, I mean,
let's say we get to the summary and go from there.
All right. So a young princess, and the most beautiful and youngest of the princesses,
yes,
is walking along playing with her favorite toy, a golden ball, walks near a well, which is located underneath a lime tree.
Might also be a fountain.
Might be a fountain. Yep. So some sort of water body.
It's unclear.
But under a lime tree, little girl drops her ball in the well. Frog pops up and says, "I'll go get this ball for you, but it's going to cost you." She offers up her clothes.
We must point out first, she is distraught beyond distraught. She is wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. Unhappy.
Yeah.
Offers up anything this frog wants. First her clothes, but then pearls, jewels, even her crown. She's like, go get me my golden ball. Frog says no. His price is, and it's something to, I get to live with you and eat with you, and importantly, sleep in your bed, and I'll be your new plaything instead of that golden ball.
Yeah.
Which I found pleasantly creepy.
Delightfully.
Just like, hello, youngest princess. I don't know how young a youngest princess is, but it implies, I mean, I'm assuming prepubescent.
It's a question I have for later as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
So the frog retrieves the ball.
Frog retrieves the ball. She's just like, This frog sounds like he's eating too much sugar cereal. He's he's not coming home with me. I'm just gonna take this ball. Once he gives me the ball, I'm fucking off back home. And the frog is like, well, no, wait, I can't. I'm not as quick as you, little girl. Wait for me. She dicks off back home. He slinks back off to his fountain. Next day, girl's eating breakfast with the whole family. Frog comes a knocking on the door, and he's here to claim his reward for his little fetch quest. Girl's scared to answer the door, and the king says, well, why are you afraid? Do you think there's a giant outside? Which I'm not sure if was that like an expression at the time? Like,
yeah, I'm not sure there. I don't know if it's literal or metaphorical. There's a lot in this story that I'm not sure is literal or metaphorical.
Amanda, my wife, she's always looking for the allegory and has said like she thinks she's like all of the allegories have been lost 200 years ago. I digress. She says, the king says, why are you afraid of going out? Is there a giant outside? And she says like, no, it's a frog. I made a deal with him. And now he's here. And he brought me my ball and I said he could sleep with me. And then I took off. I changed my mind. And then now he's here. So the king's like, well, kiddo, you made a promise. So the frog's like, oh, that's great. Okay. So, all right, little girl. Now the king has said that you have to do this. It's time for you to bring me to your bedchamber that we may lie together.
Oh, well, there's some uncomfortable eating first.
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. Fair enough. They eat their sugar cereal. They eat their life cereal, their checks. I don't know. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they ate then.
Eggs.
We can guess. Yeah, call it eggs.
Yeah, bread, eggs. Breakfasty foods, all part of your complete breakfast. But the king's like, okay, yeah. There's this uncomfortable breakfast. The frog, though, he wants to lie in your bedchamber. You got to go do it because you made a promise. She cries. I don't even know this girl's name, by the way. I don't think it's ever mentioned.
No.
Which is something that happens a lot in these things. I have a note about that too. But so you made a vow, little one. So she takes the frog into the bedroom with her. He starts in on not just the bedroom, kiddo. Like, that's not where this ends. I'm gonna lie in your bed with you. That is what's happening. So
nobody puts Froggy in the corner.
Nobody. None gets away with it. So she, though, decides, fuck this, picks up the frog, hurls it as hard as she can against the wall in order to kill it. And lo and behold, no kisses needed. The Shyamalanian twist. The frog turns into a handsome young prince with very pretty eyes. At which point, two things occur. Number one, Princess is very happy all of a sudden to have this guy in her bed. And the prince doesn't much care that the girl tried to kill him. I'm guessing because extremely young girls welcoming you into their bed, that doesn't come along every day. All is forgiven on both sides. And that afternoon, they are married. They are married before he has even a chance to explain why he is now a very pretty-eyed prince. And that's where we kind of get the hard right turn with Iron Henry shows up. So they get married. He then starts in on like, okay, so here's what happened. A witch cursed me, as they do, and you're the only one that could have lifted the curse. So I'm glad that you came along and dropped your golden ball, which we have not heard about in a while.
No.
No, the ball.
She has a new plaything.
Wailing and gnashing. Now it's done. Yeah, curse is lifted. And the next day, faithful Henry shows up in a carriage pulled by 8 white horses, at which point I went back a little bit. I'm like, who's faithful Henry? And no, nothing is really told about this. But so he was the servant of the king. He's like, I've heard the good news. You're back to normal. I'm here to bring you and your new wife back to your kingdom. Everyone piles in the carriage. They go back home. And then Henry said that he was so sad about that the Frog King had turned into a frog that he had put 3 iron bands around his heart so that it wouldn't blow up. It wouldn't break so hard that he died. And on the way home, the first band breaks and the king says, the carriage is breaking. And Henry says, no, just the iron bands from around my heart. They're just snapping. I'm fine. and then and then that happens like a couple more times. Like another band breaks and the king is like, well, the carriage, and he's like, nope, once again, your highness. just the iron bands that I had wrapped around my heart. And then the final band breaks, the end.
Yeah.
Which is,
but although again, the young prince king, whatever he is, says, "Oh my god, the carriage."
Yeah, the carriage. Yeah.
No, my liege.
No, once again,
the band's around my heart.
My liege. As I have explained to you several times. It's just the bands that one puts around their heart.
That's what's the style at the time.
The end. So that's the story.
Yeah.
I will say this about Grimm's. It moves along, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of wasted words.
No.
Which is
there's
fine.
There's not a lot of world building.
Right. I mean, yeah, this is 3 pages, like literally 3-page sides.
3 pages, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is one of the longer stories. Like later on, I think like as part of Grimm's, you get into your Cinderellas and your what have you, and that comes in at like 4.5 page, but that's as long as they get. There's no world building.
Yeah, I mean those are the ones we adapt into movies.
Yeah, and Disney had to do like a lot. Like the Walt Disney Company to get Beauty and the Beast to work. Like there's so much work they had to do to take this folktale and turn it into a 90-minute thing that someone might actually be interested in watching. So you get, let's have a wolf attack and a giant spider in Act 3.
No capes.
No capes, yeah. All right. So the moral of the story.
What do you think the moral is here?
I got 2 ideas. If you'll hear me.
Please.
Yeah. One. If this is it, honor your promises and you will be rewarded. Kind of maybe. Granted, she's forced to honor her promise by her dad.
And was she rewarded?
Yeah. Well, the promise she made was to a monster who wanted to trade an easy task of let me pick this up for you. It's like was this very much a nice guy syndrome, but like the task of like, here, let me get the hello, my lady. Let me pick up this ball for you. Now I'll be staying in your bed with you. So get ready for froggy time.
What do you mean you don't want to sleep with me?
You want to sleep with me?
I got your ball for you.
I've been so nice to you. Check out my long tongue. It works out for her in the end, in that like it turns out that the guy was handsome the whole time.
Thank God.
Thank you. Phew, Jesus Christ. Imagine if he was ugly. And not only is he but he's a king. He's like first in line because she's the youngest princess. So she has to go somewhere else to be a queen. Yeah,
I mean, I think from the tone we get from the king, it sounds like maybe he's sick of her shit anyway.
Yeah, and wailing and gnashing. Like, Daddy, I lost my golden ball again. Well, how many golden balls do I need to give you? Like, maybe you should just go marry a frog, bitch.
So here's a question I have.
Okay.
And so you had said earlier in your summary that it's all a happy ending for her. He's a handsome prince with kind eyes, et cetera, et cetera. But I went back and reread it. And so first of all, after she throws him against the wall and she says, quote, "Now you will be quiet, odious frog." After that, we do not hear a word from her and we do not see or hear any of her thoughts.
Huh.
It was previously pretty much from her point of view, but it goes, "Then she was terribly angry and took him up and threw him with all her might against the wall. 'Now you will be quiet, odious frog,' said she. But when he fell down, he was no frog, but a king's son with beautiful, kind eyes. And it came to pass that, with her father's consent, he became her dear companion and husband. He told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself, and that tomorrow they would go together into his kingdom. And they went to sleep, and the next morning when the sun awoke them, a carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, et cetera, et cetera."
There's Iron Henry.
There's no... It's very ambiguous. There's no hint as to whether this is actually something she's interested in.
Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting read.
And given the time, the king might have been like, "Fuck yeah, finally, I can get rid of this one. I've only got 7 more to take care of."
That's a lot of mouths. And I was ready to marry you off to a frog, little girl. Like, I mean, and that's another thing that happens in Grimm's a lot. I've noticed that like things just drop off. Like,
yeah, and I think that's it has to, because otherwise these are going to be 8 pages long, right?
Oh yeah, I know this, which is too hard. I mean, and to be fair, which is too hard or maybe too long for an oral tradition.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a number of reasons why these are as short as they are, and the length of them means that you have to have drop offs. You have to forget things.
This is
doesn't mean it's not going to be comedic fodder for us, though.
Yes, the Brothers Grimm were a couple, like there were a couple of as whatever the amounted for lawyers at the time in the early 1800 Germany, which I don't even think was Germany really yet. It was like the Empire of the Rhine. This is, and when they were putting this book together, Napoleon Bonaparte was still running around.
Yeah, they'd been overrun by the French. So
yeah,
Germany was in French hands. And it was an area like Russia didn't, Moscow didn't own it. There wasn't really a Russia yet. There was Russia, but like not the way that we recognize it today. And certainly Germany was very much its own thing. And there's kind of more I think we can get into in other stories as we're going forward into sort of where they were at the time. But and worth mentioning in this edition, there's a nice long introduction written by a guy in Hadley, Massachusetts, of all places.
I saw that. That was
that talks about the Brothers Grimm, where they came from, what was going on, what the times were like then. And this is where some of my knowledge of Germany was in the hands of the French and things like that. And it talks about the origin of fairy tales and what is a fairy tale, the anatomy. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I need to go back and reread, but yeah,
we can
definitely
go
worth a look.
I read through that and I thought that was really interesting. I also like there's some more things I'll get into soon, but back to this. Okay, so all right, that was the moral one. Honor your promises and you'll be rewarded, maybe. And yeah, you bring it up like it's like, well, she was she got married.
Did she get to bring her ball with her?
So it is unclear. Second moral. And this is me being a little more skeptical. Like ladies, once you make a promise, there is no changing your mind, no matter how much you hate a guy. However, you can change him if you're cruel enough. If you try and murder him, he might calm down and everything will work out. Iron Henry's a coming.
I hadn't thought of it in that light, but that's an interesting take.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not sure that's what they intended, but it's definitely a good read. So on the subject of moral and the story overall, this was an interesting drop into this world. The very first story is about a spoiled brat who cries when she loses her ball, makes a promise, an unreasonable promise to a frog to get her shit back, and then completely reneges in the process. And as you said, fucks off back to the castle. And then when she has to uphold that promise, she gets all squeaked and tries to kill the frog against the wall, and then is rewarded by the frog turning into a prince and marrying her on the spot. And it's just, aside from the hard right turn into Iron Henry, it's just, I guess it's exactly what I had thought I would be getting from Grimm's fairy tales from everything I had heard. I've heard, I've seen some of the originals of like Hans Christian Andersen things like The Little Mermaid, where she doesn't marry Prince Eric. She is rejected and then cries on a rock in the ocean until she dissolves into the sea
foam.
Yeah. Things like that. So I knew this was going to be different and interesting, but this was an interesting drop right into the world.
It is. And to that end, now this, after doing some looking, Frog Prince, always the first story of every edition of Grimm's.
Oh, interesting.
Like, unless it's like a very, very shortened version. And like the Brothers Grimm, they thought this story in particular needed to be number one every time that they put out an edition. They were like, this is like a very classic German story. It's like one of the most famous, like this is one of those stories where like, I don't ever remember hearing this story. I don't ever remember being shocked by the frog kisses a princess and then turns into a prince. In my brain, that story has always existed.
Yeah.
Which means I got it somehow before I was making like at age 2 or 3 or something. Like that's so persistent, like the actual kind of definition of a meme.
Right. Yeah.
If you want the same way that I never got to be shocked that Darth Vader was Luke's father. I just always knew that. But so yeah, they thought this was a very, very important story, and this is according to Jack Zips, a German professor at the University of Minnesota and one of the foremost experts on Grimms. So Dr. Zips, you're always welcome on the podcast.
Now, is there any insight there as to whether this was? I'm assuming this is not necessarily the first story they wrote.
No, well, they as I understand it, and I'm probably screwing this up. They just started writing down, I think, like all these kind of oral tradition stories from like, especially from these people in a town called Kassel, maybe Kassel. I might be I might be screwing that up. If I'm sure if we post this, then we'll have several
fix
people.
It in post.
We'll fix it in post, or a lot of people will tell me how very wrong we are. My only other kind of real note was lime trees. Is there anything else you'd kind of like to kind of get into?
Oh, I've got a handful of things.
Okay,
but some of them are just funny questions.
Okay,
I'm curious to hear what you've got on lime trees, because that one,
okay.
I saw it, but I didn't think about it.
You could have citrus trees, but it was you had to be wealthy.
No, I'm sure it's like trying to grow oranges in Massachusetts.
It's exactly, yeah. You have to have, like very specific setup. You have to have whatever their version of a greenhouse was, which is, so this princess with the golden ball and the lime tree is quite the catch for any frog.
Yeah.
That might happen along.
I hadn't even thought about lime trees in that kind of climate, but yeah, no, that's absolutely correct.
Okay. Michael, your thoughts?
Some bullet points that I had.
Okay.
And this first one, you touched on this as we went through it. So Frog says, "Be quiet and do not weep," answered the frog, "and I can help you. But what will you give me if I bring your plaything up again?" "Whatever you will have, dear frog," said she. "My clothes, my pearls and jewels, and even the golden crown which I am wearing." So, first of all, she is wearing a golden crown while playing in the forest.
Yeah.
I don't find that practical, but it's her choice.
Was she was she outside the palace grounds?
That's what I thought. Oh, close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest was a well.
See, now that's crazy to me because they can't grow. You can't just have a lime tree in the forest, but
well, you can if you are horribly rich.
If you're horribly rich and you're controlling it a little bit, but okay. So she's
bringing buckets of water out there every day, and
preventing it from freezing. Okay, so she's in the forest. She's in the dark forest.
Well, we are talking about magic here too. So
yeah.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, so first of all, she's wearing a crown while playing. That's her choice. But again, you touched on this. The first thing she thinks to offer is my clothes. And that's not the first thing I would think to offer if somebody was trying to do me a favor.
Yeah. Listen,
like my daddy has money. I have a silver ball that I don't love as much. I can give you that in exchange. The pearls that I'm wearing, I just find, and I understand that. I think the point is that she's wearing rich, opulent clothing, which could fetch a hefty sum at market. But I just find it very strange that this young girl is like, "Oh yeah, I'll give you my clothes. I will trot right back to the castle fully naked as long as I get my ball back."
Yeah.
So yeah,
and the princess is like, "No, take my opulent clothes. I want to live like common people, common frogs."
Yeah.
All right, where were we then?
The crown, I think.
The crown, yeah. So yeah, and the crown, I think, that's also like, I'll marry you. I mean, that was, like, I will. To offer someone the crown is to to bring them kind of into the fold a little bit. I mean, you can look at it both ways.
Yeah.
Here's something
that could have been a heavier gesture than she'd been aware of.
Or just, she was like, I don't even give a shit about being a princess anymore. This is as long as I got
golden ball.
As long as I have my golden ball.
The fact that recurs in the story makes me wonder if it's a metaphor for something, or if it's just at the time a princess having a golden ball was the shit,
Yeah, like
you weren't a princess unless you had a golden ball.
You got like your best, like in the 50s, little boys with their very best marble shooter. What was
right? Yeah, the Aggies.
You just keep the best one and you put that in your backpack, and then you're set. Or
yeah, exactly.
So okay, yeah,
disenchantment. Yeah. So he says, after he's back to his princely form, no one could have delivered him from the well. This is the narrator saying what he was explaining, that no one could have delivered him from the well but herself. So my questions are, why her? Like, did she just meet certain specifications, or was it literally her? Was it keyed to her, which is creepy? And what was it that she actually had to do? Because breaking the enchantment was that was when she threw him against a wall with the intent to murder.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what this enchantment was. What was the body of it, such that being thrown against the wall by this particular princess broke it and brought him back to himself.
Yeah. I mean, I guess killing that form, killing the frog, throw a frog against the wall, and I assume that killed. So the frog then died, and then he came up. Yeah, I noticed that too, though. I have no idea. Like, I think I said earlier, lucky for him, then she was dicking around in the forest with her ball and just happened to drop it.
Yeah. And why didn't he explain the situation to her in the first place? He's a talking frog.
I had a theory.
He clearly understood the enchantment boundaries.
Yeah.
Unless part of the boundaries was that he couldn't talk about it.
Enchantment aside, and maybe that's it. But so I had a theory. What if then the frog is so she's a young princess, so she's not getting first pick of the best king in the land, right?
Right.
This is like the frog. It's an older guy, second in line for the throne. She doesn't want anything to do with him. Suddenly, the first in line kicks it. And, actually, now that I look at him, very kind eyes. And you say I'll be living in a castle. You say Iron Henry will be along with 8 white horses.
With ostrich feathers on their heads.
With ostrich feathers to take us to the big castle. Well, shit. Let us be married this very afternoon.
And that's the next question I have is, how old are these people? Because she's in the woods playing with a ball, wearing her pearls and her crown, and talking to frogs.
That's an 8-year-old, right?
Before all this went down, I was thinking 6 to 8, maybe a year or two more than that. But I mean, that's about what I was thinking, especially the petulance that she has. I mean, you could see that from an older girl too, but
yeah.
Definitely, my guess was between 6 and 10.
Well, you have 2 children.
I do,
and I'm assuming at one point one of your kids went through a phase where they liked playing with balls. I mean, they're still that's shit. No, wait, hold on.
Not sure that phase ever goes away.
I mean, yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, this is not what I'm trying to say. That's
a universal.
Or like Nerf balls, however you want to call it. Like and I seem to recall being young, but like, yeah, that's not any older than 10, 11, right?
No.
Like prepubescent.
Yeah, no,
I would think.
You have a favorite toy and you would do anything for, or Minecraft. Yeah. I've lost my Minecraft. I will give you anything if you can reinstall it on my computer. And so, so I mean, there's a I feel like there's definitely an assumed age here, and maybe the subtext of the time could give us more clues on that, but I was definitely picturing 6 to 10.
Yeah. And
then this prince, it's unclear how old he is, but he's clearly a ward of, faithful Henry. He's a boy, and yet they are married that very afternoon.
Yeah.
It certainly insinuates that they sleep in the same bed that night before going
That
off to his
frog-
meeting the next day.
That frog wanted in her bed bad.
He did. Yeah, and that's another thing I have here too, is that he was a dick.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, sure, he had been wronged, but it was a very unreasonable promise. And it comes back to that whole point that you had about like the incel sort of suggestion there.
Yeah. Like,
Milady. I'll get that for you, but
yeah,
you don't want to have sex with me.
And yeah, and taking advantage of grooming, if you will, a young girl that just doesn't know what she's promising.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I can do that. And it's easy for the frog. And his and not only that, not only is it easy for the frog to go get this thing, but he's like, I'll go get it for you as she's crying, like, but none of what you've promised is good enough. I want to be in your bed with you. I want to lie down in your little bed. There's some creepy ass way they say it too. Like,
yeah, he says, I do not care for your clothes, your pearls, or your jewels, or for your golden crown. But if you will love me and let me be your companion and playmate and sit by you at your little table and eat off your little golden plate. I mean, that also insinuates she's a young girl.
Yeah. And
drink out of your little cup and sleep in your little bed. If you'll promise me this, I will go down below and bring you your golden ball back up again.
He'll go down below, will he?
Another question I had: Where's mom in all of this? I know mothers are very loaded in this setup.
Yeah, there's no mom in this story. There's definitely no mom. There doesn't seem to be any mom in general in ATU number 440, and the Arn Thompson list 440 doesn't seem to have that. But okay,
yeah.
So that then is story number 1.
Yeah.
The Frog King.
I feel like we've covered everything that could be covered there.
Yeah, Frog King / Iron Henry. Is there anything more on Iron Henry? Like,
that was my one question. He knew about the enchantment. As he says, I placed these iron bands around my heart after you were bewitched by that witch and imprisoned in a well.
Yeah.
Like
he just leaves them. He leaves them under the lime tree.
He's like, I guess there's nothing to do.
I guess, yeah. Like you could have, bro. Like, I mean, unless it was specifically the Frog King was like, listen, I gotta wait for a while. I gotta wait until this little girl. I can wait till an 8-year-old with a golden ball comes by the lime tree, and maybe she'll be so disgusted that I'm trying to sleep with her that she'll murder me. And then once that happens, you'll hear about it, I'm sure. Swing by, come get us both.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. The end.
Thus endeth the end.